And we're live. Welcome, everybody. Lorelines episode 74. Today we've got Cobheran, Core Healer, Ayumi, and Neela, and a special guest. We're here with Kaslo25, who is a variety streamer, over 2,600 videos on YouTube, has been in our chat for a while, and we're just going to have a conversation about Final Fantasy XIV and whatever else comes to mind. Specifically, I think we're going to touch on Pandemonium and what may come next. And, with that, it's open. Welcome, everyone. Kaslo, thank you for coming today, and we're just going to hang out. So, welcome to
Kaslo
Lorelines.
looks like he could bench press 3 of us.
Yeah, I made sure his avatar that Meowth had drawn for us was taller because he looked very muscular. So,
It's that raw physique.
yep.
And God, do I really have like 2,600 videos?
It says so, yeah. 2,685.
Most of those are just random old streams of really old retro RPGs.
Well, that's great. That means you know lots of stuff about lots of stuff. And to be honest, I when you had sent your thumbnails over to me this morning, and I saw that one of them was Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I was very, very happy. So, yay.
Yeah, I did a separate starting soon screen for all my Xenoblade streams.
I'm working through one right
though
now.
I didn't stream 3 just because I wanted to actually play that one.
Right.
And I don't have as much streaming time anymore.
I'm currently going through Xenoblade 1 because I'm not allowed to buy myself 3 until I beat the other 2. So I already did 2, but I'm going back.
You set expectations for yourself. That's funny.
Like, stop buying games. You're not playing them. You just get a grip.
I look over at Shin Megami Tensei 5 that I haven't finished.
Oh, there's so much. This is like a new golden age of RPGs, and I just, unfortunately, don't have the time anymore.
Yeah, I haven't been keeping up either. I'm doing well to keep up with Final Fantasy most of the time. I haven't done Manderville yet. I'll do that before 6.3.
I just started that this morning.
Just started
Actually,
the Hildebrand quests? From the beginning?
No.
The Endwalker portion.
Oh,
the
Endwalker ones are hilarious.
So good.
I've heard that they're very good. It's just been a matter of time.
Also, there's a meme I
prioritize
still need to make from it, but I haven't got a chance to yet.
I can't wait to see it.
Oh, the Manderville Endwalker ones are so good.
Enderville, that is their name now.
I had my speakers on. My wife was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, you know what I'm doing. She heard the music. Oh, it's great.
Yeah, it's funny seeing everybody kind of on Twitch right now doing Hildebrand because they've got to get caught up before Tuesday.
Yes, exactly.
Does Criterion come out on Tuesday as well?
Yep,
it does.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. You know what this means, though?
Yes.
It means that immediately after this stream, I have to log in and finish my Heaven on High 100 run because I'm going to be doing Criterion when that comes out.
I thought you were going to say you need to become a Heaven on High streamer.
No,
Oh
dude. Have you seen that leaderboard?
Oh man, yeah, no. Insane.
Anyway. Goodness. Okay, so Pandemonium left us off with a fortress in the future. That's weird.
Present.
Yes.
Weird is a very gentle way to put it, yes.
So I don't know if anybody had thought about this, but I had thought maybe part of the way that certain individuals escaped the Sundering was to lock away Pandemonium and use it as a boat. Now that doesn't make sense anymore because we have the castle showing up, under Charlene here.
At this particular point of time, not
Yeah.
Before, yeah.
Yeah, so that's off the that's off the board.
I mean, yeah.
La Habre's like, all right, we're gonna go to we're gonna go to the Praetorium now. Let me lock away Pandemonium for a hot second, and then we'll just have it show up later. No, it's not a thing. There's no way.
I will say having it there really baffles me because I don't see how, like, at this point we've seen it in the present. If we go back, do we have to keep our mouth shut? Do we say, hey, La Habrea, make sure you throw this thing in the live stream, because the future says this has to happen. Does it just happen naturally? And then we're like, oh, so that's how. Like, how do we not say anything like, hey, this should? Oh, one thing I should actually bring up, and I think that there's still some possibility of the I don't think they use it for the Sundering, but I think you can't take it off the table because it didn't not exist. It emerged from the live stream. It was within, and it is now popped to the surface, much like the Isle of Val, but not quite as much so to go all the way to reality.
Yeah, that's why I think just the fact that it shows up means that it was cut adrift. In Elpis, we have some lore bits about how they're able to completely. I mean, just in Pandemonium even, but before then, like we know that like Hyperborea is a separate dimensional aspect, and we know from Pandemonium that they can just like literally take some scissors to it and cut around the border, and just it's out there. So.
And that's what Labrea wanted to do before he got convinced otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, let's just kill it. We don't know where these are. We've done these a billion times. There's just another one over there.
Right. Makes you wonder what other things could pop out if they so chose from the past.
Well, I'm trying to think of, just for the live stream itself, this is the first thing we've really seen manifest that's not a soul trying to like cling back to life a little bit.
I mean, there's the Isle of Val, but it was a little different. It came out all elementally and came out all the way, I believe, to reality because we like took an airship there or something. But yeah, it is.
I can't remember my Isle of Val lore. Did it literally go to the live stream before it popped over to the other side of the planet?
Yeah,
it did.
The Warriors of Dawn
Yeah.
dunked it, and they dunked it. It used to be north of Charlian, right? And they said, all right, we're getting rid of Eureka, we're getting rid of this annoying Emeralolf, and we're just going to dunk the whole island. And it pops up like way southeast of Kugane and completely elementally
in a different
fucked.
time, too.
Yeah, it was
I'm
gone
assuming-
for a bit.
Yeah, I'm assuming they didn't intend it to emerge, and I'm guessing Pandemonium was also not intended to emerge. But again,
Maybe, yeah.
we're just guessing here.
Emmett Selk is rolling in his grave.
Oh yeah, that's the best part. There's a lot of things I don't like about this. Let's bring it to the future thing. I'm like, this is just gonna get messy, but I do like the fact of him just sitting there like, ugh, the Warrior of Light is to blame somehow for this.
Gets woken up from his bed, looks to his right. What is that doing here?
I know this is the Warrior of Light's fault. God damn it.
And for like half a second, he's like, I wish Hydaelyn was here to fix this.
Hythlodaeus is just cackling.
Yeah, he can't be like, your live stream, your problem. He's like, no.
Question: where are the Hythlodaeus Hades memes of like Hithy just eating some popcorn and Hades being super disgruntled? Where are those at? Somebody draw them, please.
Yeah, I've seen some on Twitter.
The popcorn movie theater live stream ones. That's what I want.
I've even
Hythlodaeus just in there be like, check out what the Warrior Light's doing now.
It's like, oh, you brought me to another rom-com.
There was a great one. There was actually a great one. I'll have to see if I can find it where it was like, before dawn is your Warrior of Light.
Yes, Lion King.
Yeah, Zental says Emmett Sulk's like, not my circus, not my monkeys. Pretty much.
But speaking of, now that we do have Pandemonium kind of popping up back on the source in the present, got me to thinking more of the only people that would know about it potentially would have been other ancients. And we really only have one ancient we can go to, and it's somebody that they've talked about coming back into the story, which is Gaia.
Yeah, although she's...
And so do we go visit Gaia for the next portion?
She can't know, though, because she's sundered, she's reborn, she's re-risen. She is an ancient, she is a convocation member, but she's definitely 1/14th. And can't imagine. I mean, so I have this thing, right, where if I look at it's not real. It's just my own headcanon. And it's that the extreme versions and the savage versions are what really happened. And it's not real. It's just my own brain space. But like in extreme E8, E12, you get that extra cutscene during the transition where she like fully adopts her persona and takes on, I'll bring back the darkness. This is my job, Oracle of Darkness. Like legit Logriff situation. And I imagine that's locked in there somewhere, but I don't know like what kind of psychoanalysis or like, she's going to have to go to a session and get hypnotized to get memories out. And even so, they're going to be They're going to be They're going to be the memories that were restored by the convocation crystal by whoever was giving them out to the
And
recruits.
Mitron giving her their memories.
Yeah, in that case, it was Mitron. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And we gave all the stupid rocks to Elidibus, and now he's a tower faded away.
Well, that speaks to what I was talking before stream about my theories about pandemonium.
Please.
Well, I wanted to hear I'm trying to remember exactly what you were saying, Kaslo. I've forgotten now. My brain is like Swiss cheese.
Well, it was talking about Gaia being kind of the only ancient that we could literally go to talk about. And there's other reasons that it could be Gaia that might be the one that we're going to go talk to, and it's more have to do with great Greek mythology. And I mean, technically, Gaia is the real mother of Eric in Greek mythology.
In mythology, yeah.
And Athena just simply
An odd
adopted
choice.
him. So, like, the crazy brainworm of me says maybe Athena used some DNA from Gaia along with DNA from Hephaestus to create Erichthonius. But then again, Gaia is also like the mother of everybody in Greek mythology, so it gets really, really wonky.
That's true.
Well, she is the transcendent.
Is that what that means? Zental sounds like a soap opera relationship. Yeah.
I mean that's
Greek
mythology.
right there.
Thank you.
Look, Greek mythology. People be like, "Oh yeah, it's soap operas." No, they've always existed. Humans have always done it. Mythology was like our entertainment before we had TV stuff.
It was everybody's fan fiction.
It makes sense. Yeah.
It's just whichever fan fiction got most popular ended up becoming canon.
Oh yeah. Pretty
Look
much.
at you
That's
looking at
basically how it
Homer.
works.
Homer's Odyssey and the Iliad.
It's true.
So do you
Yeah,
think
I have.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just filling air.
No, you.
No, you.
Okay, fine. Ugh. I was my current thinking is revolving around the fact that Athena might have done terrible things to Erichthonios. The fact that I'm anticipating a dread beast pandemonium. I'm wondering if that's why the castle remains intact, less that it's a place and more that like everything becomes imbued with this like dread beast essence.
I was going to ask about that because that's the one thing that from the end of the teaser at the end of Endwalker that hasn't come to pass is Themis saying that we would take on the dread beast pandemonium.
Yeah,
I wouldn't refer to the
that
facility as a beast. So there's got to be some master beast at the end of it, which I assume is probably going to be our P12 fight and probably P11's Athena.
Very likely. That's kind of what I'm thinking too. And I keep looking at the eye in the sky in P8 and looking at Athena's eyes, which are the same color as Erichthonios's. And they made that data mineable, so it's not like they're trying to hide it from us like Lahabrae's, which they are trying to hide, though they're also the same glow, different base color. But yeah, so I personally subscribe to the eye color, soul color thing because of the reflections on the first having the same eye color even when other attributes are changed.
Yeah,
which would be
it's a cute thing.
A fantastic video, Neela.
Oh, you know, I should make. I've
That's
been
a good
trying to make
one.
that video for like a month and a half. I'm bad.
Neela,
I haven't
specialist.
looked close enough, but does Sid and Chai have the same eye color?
I haven't looked either. I know someone put it together and I couldn't find all of the info on it. That's part of why I've been not on top of the videos because I need to reference this and I haven't found it.
I'm going to just do a quick Googs and see if I can zoom in close enough.
So that was a little off topic, but it just reminded me that's another reflection.
We've got Mo and Rowena. We've got all this.
I also looked at Jarek and the other guy. Made me think of Biggs and Wedge a lot.
Sid
so
Master Chai's eyes are like in between blue and purple. It looks like.
Sid's are like very pale, almost white, right? I'm trying to remember.
It's like Master Chai chooses his wardrobe by his color complementary with his eyes.
Well, I mean, he would.
He would.
Being a wealthy fella, it makes sense. You know, what else is he going to do with his time? Of course, he's going to try and dress his best.
Gonna hire the pleb from outside of town who's good at dressing people.
And then if he fails, he just throws him off a ledge.
Oh, that's so
jeez.
awful.
If you're lucky.
That
otherwise,
is
he gets
Shadowbringers,
to
everybody.
save.
That's the plot.
I liked that Shadowbringers went hard on those kind of themes. That was
Just
good.
throw him off a cliff.
It was
Okay.
terrifying. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they match.
But whatever the case, yeah, it's quite possible that my guess would be that certain writer or writers are subtly laying in the eye color thing and others are not bothering with it. So I'm guessing there will be some inconsistencies. And it may just not be a theory. It doesn't matter if the theory gets disproven, it's fine because it's just going to be my headcanon then. Because I just think it's neat. Anyway, but so there's an eye in the sky. Athena's eyes are hidden intentionally. While Habrea comments on it, and then it's not further addressed, which is very weird to me. And yeah, so I'm expecting Claudian to either be Athena reborn or Athena takes over Eric Thonios. Or she loads her memories into him. Something's going to go wrong. I think Eric Thonios is going to get brought to the future in the thing. We're going to have to rescue or disentangle him from the beast, and then he can be with Elidibus in the live stream. That's my theory.
Oh.
Oh.
But I mean, that goes back to some stuff I was talking about pre-show, which is it's hard to think that Themis and Ericthonius are done, and really
Yeah.
even Hephaestus. And so, how do you keep them kind of a part of the story when the story seems to be taking place in the present?
Yeah, the only way I can think is if he's inside that structure.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, imagine the emotional agony of like La Habrea and Ericthonios trying to repair their relationship, and then something goes wrong and he has to consign him to the live stream. That would be like tear your heart out. I live for that kind of thing.
So your Themis theory does have a problem.
Yeah, the first.
Yeah. Unless Heidelin was nice enough to ferry him over before he got back from Elpis.
Would be nice. We know that she ferried Emmett Selk and Menphilia's soul to the source, and she told us that in the low-level quests, and he wasn't consigned to the live stream until much higher, so it's not impossible that she didn't get around to mentioning she popped him over. But yeah, I know I haven't figured that part out beyond. Well, maybe she did.
Yeah, I mean he's in the tower. Like there's no way.
No, he's
short
not
of
in the
short of
tower
time.
anymore.
Well, I know I'm speaking kind of wishy-washy, but like he was in the tower, and so unless it's another soul split or another timeline wonky thing, I don't know. I'm the one who steps on everyone's dreams, by the way, just in case you didn't know
That's your
that.
job.
I gotta wonder.
There's even a question of whether or not he returned to the live stream after using all his energy on the Crystal Tower, because
Right.
it might
It wasn't super
that might
clear.
be it might be using all the aether of the soul, which
Yeah.
kind of tears the soul apart. Even.
To me, I'm agreeing with Kaslo, and I think that this scene was very similar to the Heidelin's defeat scene, where she's like, yeah, it's gone. I know we haven't done this before. Like, normally you can't use your base soul and entity, but for her, she's dead. She's the end, period. That was the price of saving the universe in her way, was to completely forfeit her soul and any rebirths. She is gone. Vina is gone. So I got the same vibe.
She had a nice long life.
She did.
So for Elidibus to be sacrificed very young and not get that opportunity ever again because he becomes an Ascian would be kind of rancid to me. But, you know, sometimes bad things happen to good people.
We're
Yeah.
in
I say,
Neela.
when I first watched it, I was actually furious and couldn't enjoy the start of Elpis at all. Because Elidibus is my big favorite.
Yep.
Well, was my big favorite before Hesperos. Don't worry about it. But I just like Hot Vampire Man. Hot Chocula.
How quickly you turn your back on Themis?
Oh, I haven't turned my back on him. I'm enjoying him too. I've got two hands. But so I was very, very upset, and I first read it as he's gone. This is awful. I was furious, and it was only when I went back later, started actually digging into it, that I thought, you know, I don't think that's actually the case. So again, it is a little ambiguous, and it really could go either way.
Yeah, that's fair.
It would certainly be a bit poetic, considering that they seem to really want like a hard break with Heidelin and Zodiark. So having their wills in the persons of Vina and Themis going away would make sense. And be tragic, but it would make sense.
I'm still struck by how he calls Zodiark Lord when this is weird to me still.
Yeah, you can tell some of the things weren't planned out. But it's actually very interesting now that I'm thinking about it. The way he addresses Heidelin as he's dissipating. Elidibus addresses Heidelin's like, "Well, you know, you're the last of us," and now I'm wondering, like, did she respond? She's like, "Hell no, you ain't done yet. I got a job for you." No, probably not.
Hired
Are you talking
postmortem.
about when he dissipated right before Elpis?
Yes, he says something like, you know, you're the last one, and the joy and the sorrow of it's all yours, or whatever.
Yeah, basically he's appealing to her sense of loneliness and commiserating, but also this is what you get. So that's how I took that.
You got what you wanted. I hope it's sour.
Yeah, I hope it's sour.
That whole scene,
He's a little more magnanimous than that. He's like, I wish you the joy of it and the sorrow.
yeah, those
I'd have been like,
those
choke on it.
scenes with Elidibus are somewhat hazy because of me just jumping with crazy when we arrive in Elpis, and the realization that we're traveling back in time, which I was just like, I couldn't have called that, but I could see it coming now that he starts talking about it.
Yep. Same
Yeah.
boat.
We've got a
That and then all the other leave this to you stuff is Emmett Selk leaving everything to the Warrior of Light.
Mhm.
So that kind of predominates in my mind more than anything else. But on Pandemonium, yeah, I don't see any way that they don't involve Eric Thonios and Themis, and so I don't know if we're jumping back between the two times to go, hey,
Yeah.
this shit just happened.
Yeah, I'm like, how can we go back and be like, I'm from the future and your thing is in the future? I feel like that would cause problems. We've kind of really worked hard not to say I'm from the future, so we may have to keep our lips buttoned. But like,
We've already
I
caused
don't know
enough
how I'd
problems
do
by
that.
telling people where we're from.
Yeah, exactly. It would cause a lot of problems, but like that means we have to keep quiet. And I'm like, there's a whole ass fortress in the live stream. How do I keep quiet about this? I would have questions.
This is reminding me a little bit, and I have a question for Kaslo. Take it however you want. But as a Chrono Trigger enjoyer, what do you make of the Black Omen versus Pandemonium in the present?
Ooh, that's interesting.
So for those who did
I
not
don't know.
play
I
Chrono
don't know if
Trigger,
maybe Pandemonium was created to be some entity outside of time, also.
yeah. I mean, for someone, so right now in the story, we kind of have Athena being this mwahaha knowledge more important than survival of anyone situation, and we've got Pandemonium in the distant future compared to Elpis, and I'm wondering even if it doesn't show up for the purpose of narrative in other timelines. This just got me thinking because the way it phased in kind of reminded me of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like weird. It's kind of weird how I mean, this is just the story they wrote, but we beat Pandemonium and then go back home, and it just kind of apparates into the area exactly where we're talking to Claudian.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
And Claudian's
it's
missing now. That's not weird.
well, and it's funny because the Chrono Trigger references are kind of. There was a lot of people picking up on stuff from the from the trailer through stuff that they revealed throughout for Endwalker, because the eye of the first beast very much looks like Lavos's eye.
Sure.
And then you've got Elpis, which is clearly a reference to the Kingdom of Zeal.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm amazed nobody has asked the team about that yet.
It is interesting.
It's absolutely a reference. Not only because it looks like Zeal, you know, you've got the floating sky kingdom, but in addition to that, they mentioned during one of the FanFest keynotes that the Sundering happened 12,000 years ago, which is exactly how long in the past Zeal was.
Thank you so much. Yeah, 12,000 BCE was exactly. Yep.
Well, and then there was a lot of theorization just after Shadowbringers about kind of the keening and that cry from underneath the earth, and people trying to link that to Lavos's cry as well.
Yep, absolutely.
So to get a Black Omen like entity would kind of be par for the course.
So for those who didn't play Chrono Trigger in the chat, it's hard to say. It's a classic game. You should definitely play it. But at a certain point in the story, the Kingdom of Zeal sinks beneath the waves. The queen of that territory had been had made an undersea palace that had like a research station that was sapping energy from this space alien Lavos that was supposed to destroy the world in 1999 AD. Anyway, when this all went down, it shot lasers up through the ocean. It caused the massive tidal waves, aka flood myth, that happened around the same geological time frame as we had some pretty catastrophic flooding in the real world. There's some science on that geologic stuff, not wee-woo, like weird shit, just the basic geological consensus. There was some crazy stuff that happened about that time period. But all of that kind of links up with Final Fantasy because we got the key art of Elpis, and it's like suspiciously Zeal looking. It's lush green. It's in the sky, the clear skies. But it's like basically this part of the story is a story about getting too close to a power you don't understand, and it kind of catastrophically destroying the world. So, yeah, the Undersea Palace floats into the sky and becomes like it's in every timeline you can go to at that point in the story. Somewhere on the map you're gonna find it. It's a giant like floating black castle, high tech stuff.
It's that time period forward.
Yeah,
Because
that
it's
time
not
period.
in-
It's not in
talking about
BC. It's not in.
Pandemonium.
It's not in 65,000. Yeah, that's or 65 million. It's just 12K forward. Yeah. But yeah, Chrono Trigger vibes.
Well, and on top of that, there's really fun stuff in the game that you can do where you clear it at the furthest point in time, and then you can come back and keep re-clearing it in further in the past if you really want to level up and get gear and stuff. But that's just completionist type people. The game's not hard to begin with.
There's
But, yeah,
chat's
it's-
wondering if this means that Shala's brother is Themis.
Well, I mean, I saw Hesperus for the first time and thought that his phase 2 transition was going to be Magus.
Right.
It's like if he pulls out a scythe, so help me God.
Reaper patch.
But no, there's also, I mean, there's another tie to the Ethereal Sea with Pandemonium as well, in that Pandemonium's final tier or circle or whatever you want to call it is Tartarus, which is the like lowest portion of the underworld in Greek mythology. So it might be why they wanted to place it there.
It's possible. I'm postulating that the last one is going to be like heaven, basically, because in French and Japanese they don't call it what are the names? Asphodelos Abyssos Tartarus. By the Greek names, they actually call it limbo, purgatory, and well, it's the gear. I think they do call it hell. Yeah, I looked it up and now I've forgotten. I could probably find it again.
So
So
it'd be
now
like
I'm sitting here like, I
Inferno.
guess we're going to heaven next.
That would make sense because I mean, if hell is what they call Tartarus, Tartarus was the lowest portion of the underworld and was very
Mhm.
fiery, was where the gods kind of confined the Titans and their other
It's
enemies.
interesting that you say that. Sorry, that
Did
just
you
sparked
say
something in my
Titans?
brain. That's where the gods can find the Titans. So La Habrea trapping something in there and casting it out kind of makes sense. It makes sense from them keeping stuff trapped in there anyway, actually. Fascinating. I like that.
Well, and it could be that the final circle was built to kind of stay within the ethereal sea, and maybe the reactivation of some ancients like reawakening Ericthonius kind of rebuilt the other circles outward from that point.
Huh, yeah.
I don't know, I'm just brainstorming there.
Things to think
Oh, yeah.
about.
That's good.
And just speaking of, because we're talking about gods and Titans, and it just made me think of Titan itself, and I'm just like, still kind of mad that we had this lore in the ARR patch content about that the primals, once they're killed, they return to the ethereal sea and keep that kind of their soul intact, and then we don't actually see the underworld when we're down there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
remember.
had a silly pre-Endwalker theory that we were going to have a zone, that the Ethereal Sea was going to be its own zone, and there
That
was
would've
going to be
been
an
cool.
encampment of just primals.
That would have been really cool.
That would've
It
been
would have been a
awesome.
4 reference
Land of Summon
because you have
Monsters.
the
Yeah.
Cave of Summons in the Underworld.
It'd be a
the
really
Fey
cool
March.
4 reference.
But I've also been trying to brainstorm ideas of what other encounters we could have, because I mentioned having probably 11 would probably be Athena, and 12 being whatever the Dread Beast
Dread
is.
Beast, yeah.
And I don't know. My wife and I went and saw the musical Hades Town a few weeks ago, which involves uh, 2 different Greek myths. It's got Hades and is it Persephone? Yeah, it's got them, and then it's also got Orpheus and oh, I can never pronounce this, like Euclides or
Eurydice?
Eurydice.
Yeah, Eurydice, yep. Orpheus and
Um,
Eurydice when he descends to lead her out.
yeah, and so I don't know if there might be some boss themed around Orpheus and Eurydice. I mean, it just screams gaze attack as a mechanic.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I've been sitting here. My brain is completely divided on: are we going to go back and fight stuff in the past and then return to the future, or is it all going to be in the future now? Like, it would be fascinating if we tried to travel the past and just couldn't. But boy, I want some answers. That would make me crazy. So I don't know if you have any impressions on that, because I'm just sitting here like it could go either way.
Well, and I mean that's what I've been talking about is I don't know what they want to do
Yeah,
because
it's hard to predict at this point.
they gave us a lot of crumbs and not very many pieces of bread to put them into.
Yeah. The issue
Not to men-
with the raids in particular is a lot of them have a lot of the pieces that lock into place in the third part.
Yep.
So it's very, very backloaded storytelling. So you get, here's the situation now, but without really any context.
I was praying so hard it wouldn't be as backloaded this time, because that irritates me a little. It's not my personal. I don't enjoy that kind of storytelling as much. It's not to my personal tastes.
Same.
I also it also doesn't help that the first tier seemed like fairly cohesive and with the direction, and then it's a very sudden firm swerve in a lot of ways in the second. So I'm just like, where do we
Yeah,
go
the
from
second
here? I
was
don't know.
weird in that it was like all wardens and not really any beast that you're resecuring.
Yeah, exactly.
Which reminds me, I still need to get a video out on the second tier.
Oh.
And well, I'm trying to go through Greek references, and
Yeah. That'll be interesting.
Agistus has thrown me for a loop because
That is an interesting myth.
she's just like all this stuff thrown to the world, but also it's because it's not a Greek myth; it's Phaeacian that then gets incorporated into Greek and then gets even more incorporated into Rome.
Interesting.
And so, yeah. And then on top of
She was
that, it was like they took everything that could do with like different tree myths and threw it into one boss. All the way from Jewish lore to almost Norse to an extent.
That's pretty crazy. I wonder if that's part of why they chose Augustus to be the final keyword, the most powerful one, basically.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed that they didn't play more on the I lost the word.
Oh,
The androgyny of that character.
yeah, that would have been very interesting. I think the most disappointing thing for me was that the Warrior of Light, this random person, is the one that breaks through to Erechthonios. Shouldn't that have been Themis? I guess I don't get what I want.
It would have been Azem.
It was also, I forget who pointed it out. I didn't notice it until they pointed it out, but like they said, like La Habrea after Augustus is like, I'm sure she would have been glad that it was you, and like, who the fuck are we? She doesn't know us. She's never met us before. What? That was it was weird.
I like to think that it just all they could see was soul fragment or no, and they were like, "Oh, it's a Zem."
That would have been cool if that was the case. That would have been super
Yeah,
good.
to die by Zem's hands. Now that's an honor.
Yeah.
Not a topic
We do
shift,
have
but definitely a
have
tangent.
experience with people somewhat identifying us as they die.
Yeah.
Thank you,
You,
Pope.
what are you, Thornton?
I was looking up Dante's Inferno stuff, and I accidentally happened upon Dante's Inferno, the 8 circles of sneaker hell. And it's all about shoes.
Oh, God.
Yeah, just wait till you get to the very last portion of hell in Dante's Inferno. Oh, that's when things get spicy.
Mm-hmm.
The spicy in 14 takes a different context.
Depends on how far the people want to take it, and the devs want to take it in 14. Whether or not they want to offend a certain audience or not.
Yeah, I don't know how much more we can really theorize on Pandemonium without much more
Yeah.
from the devs at this point.
I just want to know. I'm very curious. I have 2 thoughts on what's his name, Claudien as well, because Claudien went off to Azizla with nobody but like a a driver for the ship, and then they lost contact with him. So it's either going to be absolutely nothing, or it's going to be the start of something very, very bad.
That idiot.
See, I could go
Right.
further in Pandemonium, but there are people here who haven't done Savage yet. So
Are there?
Well, technically, but did we sign off our
I'm
waivers?
talking about P8S Part 2.
Yeah, I got you.
Well, I mean, I'm aware of that. I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm aware of what's going on. I like to generally I like to save phase 2 stuff and have it be a surprise when I get there, but there was every person in my social circles of Final Fantasy 14 was melting down. I was like, okay, I need to know what's going on.
And I mean, I was
Obviously,
posting it in
need to
y'all's
know.
Discord, so as it was
Yeah.
happening, it was like, spoilers, but you see.
Yeah. No, like everyone, all of my friends, because I have a lot of friends that I've made through Final Fantasy 14 fandom, and everyone was just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I need to talk about this. It's like, okay, fine, I'll check it out.
So we haven't talked about Whitestone Black yet.
That's true.
Or the Twin Helix.
I mean, Twin Helix isn't at least spoilers since it's in the first phase too.
Yeah, and the little, I don't even know what you call them, in the arena's background.
In the cages. Yeah.
It's like it's like it's like a scientific thing that I can't think of the word for it.
A test tube.
Like a specimen container, yeah.
Like a test tube, yeah.
Test tube, yeah, that sort of thing.
So, but the thing about Whitestone Black is that it's the English translation of the Black Holy Stone, Black Holy Stone Ultima. And I brought this up to Cobheran, and he and I were both geeking out about it, as well as Pyromancer. Pyromancer and I kind of went off about it too. And we theorized that Ultima will be taking a very big part in the final tier of the Pandemonium raids.
I'm so
God, I
ready.
hope so.
I'm so ready. I'm so ready.
It would be fascinating if like this Dread Beast Pandemonium was the precursor or kernel, the beginning of Ultima. I know we've been talking about it since the beginning of Pandemonium. We're like, give us the Arasite lore, give us the Arasite lore, and then they drop this name, and we're like, that's gotta be.
Yes,
You know,
I mean, Whitestone
It's gotta be.
Black, especially the name of that song. It's just it has implications. We don't have lyrics yet because
Yeah.
it's like their Alexander songs where the vocals are so distorted.
Yeah.
And so you almost have to guess them until, of course, they release the full lyrics. Which
Yep.
I don't know if they'll release the full lyrics
The-
until later because it's so
they've-
more implicated.
No, they've released Endwalker EP2, and it's when it ships out, it should come with the lyrics. It's gonna be a little while till it ships, you know.
You can purchase it online.
I think you'd have to it's like how we didn't get the lyrics for what you call it, the Hesperos theme music.
XIV Leonis.
Yes, Hicks and Leonis. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Yeah, we didn't get the lyrics to those until people got the physical LP shipped to them and they opened it up, took pictures of it, you know. I'm expecting the same thing here. Zombie says, what if the Ultima Gaius Uncovered was just like just a part of an even bigger Ultima? FF does like to make stronger Ultima weapons. This is true. That would be fascinating.
Well, and then we don't know what they do with the Esper Ultima as well.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
take the Esper track. I mean, the logic I've been using for years is that Ultima was derived from Ultima the High Seraph, which was derived from, you know, we got lore from that statuette, but not much more. And so this would be a great place for them to close that loop if they want to.
It could be that like the general thing itself comes from the seraph, and then this heart, this core, this
Correct.
this El Sabik, you know, the heart of Sabik itself, could be from something else. I will say I was looking at, I've been staring at Hephaestus's back a lot recently, and he's got like
Oh
these little
my.
grayish blobs on his arm that turn green when he goes to the snake form and turn red when he goes into the centaur thing form.
Dog form?
And
Dog form, as my
Dog form.
static has called it.
Good enough, that works. But yes, they changed color with that, and then they return to this slightly bluish gray, and I'm like, is that RSite? Is that RSite? Probably not, but it's interesting, like a little visual storytelling thing going on there.
So do you believe that, in going back to Ozzy's law, do you believe that Thornton, that leaving behind the sword was intentional back in ARR or Heaven's Word?
I mean, we ended the
For
fight
Thornton.
and the sword was on the ground, and we didn't really talk
Yeah,
about it
and in
afterwards.
the caster roll quest, we still see it there, lying on the ground.
That's right.
The
Oops.
fact that it's brought up again makes me think that they probably didn't plan it, but they're like, no, we can work with this. We got this. I'm still expecting La Habrea's memory crystal. Rather,
Because we did, yeah, we did see him get sucked
Hephaestus
into
crystal.
the, we did see him get sucked into the eye, but they were practically joined. The eye and the sword were joined.
Yeah.
So we don't know whether or not A, if he was joined with the sword, or B, if he was joined with the eye, whether or not he was lost in either one of them.
Either one.
And they only really implied that he was dead in interviews,
Yeah.
but they didn't outright say he was dead. They said, you know, he got sucked into the eye and you saw the ether, but that doesn't mean he's gone per se. So if
Not to
he's in the
mention,
sword and not the eye, then it wouldn't have been destroyed when Estinian destroyed the eyes.
yeah, and not to mention that as of the end of P8, he has the Hephaestus crystal in his pocket. It's full of a bunch of memories. It's full of part of his soul. Now, it's possible he just looks into it and gets information. It's possible he fully merges with it. I think we'll get an answer to that in the next. That's one of the things I strongly suspect we will get in the next one, is some kind of a merger, whether intentional or accidental. But yeah, it's possible that crystal was in his pocket when he got ganked, and that's what, because we know, here's the thing, Claudien went to Azizla because he found the signature of another crystal.
Right.
And interestingly, Claudien tells us it's very similar, and Themis tells us it's very different when he looks at, because we show him the crystal at the start, and then he's like, sees La Habre's, and it's like, yeah, this one's totally different. So that's really odd.
Yeah, I didn't even
Ultima
thought about
now
that.
has me thinking something else too, and I'm trying to look up. Is there still the Proto Ultima Fate in Law?
Yeah.
There is.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm wondering if maybe Claudian merges with Proto Ultima.
Interesting.
Gets in the
I
cockpit.
know we kill Proto Ultima in Dune Scathe now, but I was
Which
just
I
trying to
still hate.
Since that was added, not in the original Dunsky, I'm not sure if that's. I'm not sure of the canonicity of that. It's just weird.
It was
I have
dumb.
no idea.
Doesn't it escape Dunscaith? I can't remember. It's been too long. Doesn't it escape, or
I
does
don't
it
remember
pop?
either.
Who does everybody remember? In chat, even.
I think it falls and like
It just falls and
dissipates in light.
disappears. Yeah, it just falls and disappears.
Yeah, so it's not gone. It's just it says bye. Said bye. BRB. It's like Doomgaze in 6. We got a couple comedians in chat here. Ultima in ARR was just a fancy vacuum. Roomba with a kick. And Zental says,
Accurate.
well, it was an ASEAN augmented vacuum. Hoovers up your floor and your neighbor's floor through the walls. Y'all.
Pretty much. I do wonder if like it has to be those specific primals, because that would imply that those primals were around when it was originally created. or if it can just pick up primals and that just charges it up. It may have been designed to originally pick up the Warring Triad. I don't know. I don't think so, because they were trapping them for power sources, but...
Well, remember, the Allagans, one of the Allagans' first designs was the Allagan Harrier. And that was the vessel for Diabolos.
Oh, right.
Allagan, the Harrier is, by definition, meant to be a weapon. Something that harries, something that...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put you
So...
in a hairy situation.
Ha.
Yeah.
Red Comet.
God.
I
Things
need to
that
stop
give you
looking through those
PTSD.
encyclopedias. I'm gonna find it
I
quickly.
loved it. I don't know what you're talking about.
I was bad at the reflect timing, so I sucked. Did you say something about the encyclopedias, Kaslo?
Oh, I was trying to find if I could find a reference to Proto Ultima in it.
Sorry,
that
guys. No, I
dynamic?
shouted Red Comet because it reminded me of a hairy situation in Bosnia.
See,
Oh,
things that
did
make people
shout Red
scream,
Rocket.
things that make people scream in horror, I just sit there and smile. That's the kind of person I am.
Sometimes I do that, and sometimes I'm the one screaming.
You know that meme of like the people just kind of with their faces twisted in horror, and the picture of the queen just kind of smiling? Yeah, that's me.
There will be blood. Yeah, I don't actually know that much about the Proto Ultima lore. I'd kind of forgotten about the what you call it?
Fate.
Yeah, the fate. I don't know. My brain today. I don't know what's
Well,
I
going
didn't
don't
know
really
if
do it
I
anymore.
didn't know if that fate still existed after they added, because wasn't it Proto Ultima who like repowered Diadem or whatever? This was during a point in the game when I was not doing, when I wasn't playing when the new Diadem came out.
I'm not familiar with the Diadem link. I do remember doing that once or twice back then, and I
didn't
do
pay much
miss the old
attention to it, I'm not
Diadem,
gonna
but I
lie.
don't recall Proto Ultima being involved.
So it was a
executed.
random spawn, I believe.
Oh,
in
so
there.
it's just
I
flying
do
around the
remember.
area then. It's not
Yeah.
restricted to Azus Law, is all that means.
Yeah.
It's still going around, I guess. That's a problem. I mean, just by nature, the word proto means like this was the first version.
It was the
or
first.
it's
By
prototype.
definition, Greek first.
Yeah, it just means this is their first attempt, not the mastered version. The Ultima weapon would have been their final. They released it and put their stamp on it, and this is the one.
The first appearance of Proto Ultima was in Final Fantasy XI. It was a notorious monster. They were biotechnical weapons fought in the Chains of Promathia mission, one to be feared.
Yeah,
Interesting.
they were some fun missions. I remember doing them.
They came in various types too: Arc Ultima, Arc Ultima, Arc Omega, Omega, Pantocrator, Proto Omega, Proto Ultima, and Ultima.
You just said that in front of
and
me,
I
Rob.
had
Yeah.
violent flashbacks to 11.
Yes, yes.
Oh my god.
I did too, yes.
As soon as you said Pantocrator, I was like, stares into the distance.
For those in chat, do you want to go into the word?
And not in the way I would. I'm not sure what the word means. I've never actually looked it up. I just called it Panty Raider. It was a good way to laugh off the horror of that fun mechanic.
It's supposed to be a Christian term for a certain kind of Eastern Orthodox, like Greek
it's a
Orthodox
specific depiction of Christ.
Yeah, as all powerful and almighty.
Interesting. Now I feel extra sacrilegious. Oops.
The Lord of Hosts.
It makes it interesting choice for that mechanic. That is interesting though.
La Brea does have a lot of attributes of a god in the sense of like creating life and being a Lord of Hosts. or I guess in hosts in the sense being like different forms that he can turn into. So it fits.
Yeah, he's definitely got a little of that, like the Hephaestus portion at least has a little of that containing multitudes. I am guessing we didn't really cut those quote unquote prove this because Lahabrea says something interesting during the quest line. At some point he comments and he's like, the entity I'm sensing is very different from the portion I cut out. And that's sort of the hint of like, oh yeah, he's going to turn into a bunch of monster forms and do some crazy stuff. But I don't think we removed that portion. We just locked him up. And by we, I mean mostly Erichthonios with a little help from Lahabrea.
Yoan, that is correct. He was a trial for a fan fest, and then they just kind of swapped out the succubus for Proto Ultima.
Yeah, I'm still salty about that.
See, I never got to go to a fan fest, so I was like, yay, I finally get to do something all the cool kids are doing. I think I've mentioned, I may have told this story before, but Dunscaith was the first raid that I did on content when it was actually coming out. Everything else I was still playing catch up through ARR and chasing through Heavensward.
Damn.
So this was the first thing that dropped, and then I did it, and it was new, and it was a mess, but it was a glorious mess, especially that first fight. A glorious mess as we all learned together. And it was very fun. So I happened to be up late, very late one, I guess it would have been a Tuesday morning, with friends, and we're like, hey, reset just hit, let's go run Dunscaith. And we get in there and it's Proto Ultima, not the succubus, and we're all just freaking out. We're all just like, what is going on? Oh my god, what happened? We had no idea.
Now I
See,
feel
for
old
you, for you that was a shiny new experience.
Yep.
But for everyone else it was just a Tuesday.
Yep.
That's right.
See, I am old, and I now
Patch day
feel old
jokes.
enough saying that I remember doing Crystal Tower, Circus Tower, and Labyrinth of the Ancients on content.
Yeah,
I
same.
remember
That's suffering.
I remember going into Circus Tower and doing the second boss and having to jump to different platforms, which you guys will never have
And
to do right
actually,
away.
Yeah.
and
I'm
actually
right
had
there
to
with
go
you.
into the bit circles
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And actually
Mhm.
stop them and then kill those.
and the wall lasers.
And the
Yep.
wall lasers.
I'm still really torn about
I don't
that.
think I've
I
ever seen
don't
the wall
like
lasers.
in MMOs. I understand power creep, but it's also a development choice, and I think what they've done with that is they've decided it's so old that they would rather you just get your roulette done and get out than have it be like intentionally and arbitrarily more difficult. But at the same point,
Yeah.
I wish they would make the fights in such a way that it still retains the mechanical aspect and you can't just skip everything. It doesn't mean it's hard. Maybe the little micro phases are faster, but it's weird that I could just punch him to death and it bypasses the entire design of the fight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do
ARR
understand
power
how
creep's
it happens.
terrible.
Yeah, the power creep really is. I understand why it's like you look back and you're like, I never get to see the cool things anymore. But at the same time, if your new players run face first into the super hard fight, and then they're like, oh god, that took me so long to learn, and then they run face first in the next fight, and it's also super hard, they're gonna be like, I don't know how long I can do this.
But there's a
And you'll
balance,
lose people.
right?
So
Like,
I'm
they
guessing
could-
that's why.
It's like super
the
nerf
thing is-
bat right now. Super nerf.
Yeah, the thing is, because of things like the the stat squish and all that, I'm not sure you can. I like that they have the option in game to turn echo off and to do it at minimum eye level to make it more challenging to get that sense of challenge back. But I think even if you do that, it's still much easier now, mostly because of the stat squish and then also some power creep.
Absolutely.
Which is that makes me sad. Like having the option, but it doesn't work quite right. Like I understand it's not worth tuning it for these old fights, but it would be cool.
I still remember, and Fao can attest to this. Atma.
Ugh.
I didn't do the Atma grind on content.
I did
which was
it on
good.
content. And
I did
because
it on
it was
content too.
such a low
I did
drop
it for
rate.
2 jobs.
For a
Ew,
while,
oh
it was
my
like
God, I'm
3%.
so sorry.
It was like 3%.
I have all the weapons past the Atma stage at this point because I accidentally gathered too many on my first one. And then I was like, what if I just got them all? And then I was like, I hate myself.
I spent
Yeah.
a month trying to
But-
get mine, and it was because of a stupid mistranslation that I couldn't get
God.
one of them.
Mhm.
I remember that.
And yeah,
Mhm.
so I had to look up online, like, okay, where does this drop? What's exactly, where am I supposed to get this? And there were theories everywhere on
Oh,
the
no.
forums. There was this Japanese theory that, oh, because there's 12 of them, one drops at this hour of the day in this zone. And I was like, but I already got it from that zone. So are you saying it drops from a different fate in this zone? And one other woman was saying, "Oh well, it drops during a different day of the week." And
Ugh,
Wow.
That's straight up
wild, dude.
Final Fantasy 11 theories right
Yeah.
there.
Yep. I was gonna say.
that's
Yeah.
what it was.
Let's
I can
face west
understand why
on
they would make
Tyrus
those
Day.
assumptions. Yeah.
And that's what it was for like a whole month or a month and a half until Square Enix finally was like, "Oh shit, sorry, we messed that one up."
God, yeah, no thank you. I'm glad I didn't have to deal with that. Even
awful.
now with the rate boosted, it's still pretty damn low. So that just sounds painful.
It was great training though for people who wanted to be like, okay, here's how we fate grind. You join a party, or if you don't join a party,
You're
you
screwed.
you
Or
keep
you
your
go
map
tank.
open and you go from fate to fate as quick as you can. It was
Yep.
great training for that.
I actually wonder if they're gonna. It's part of the reason I haven't gone back and done any of those relics yet. Is I'm wondering if they might incorporate ARR fates again into the new relic weapon.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how they're gonna do it this time. I didn't hate the way they did Bozia. I liked having alternatives, even if I didn't have much time to really go into
There's
it. So
one big problem with Bosnia, and it's that all the stuff for other relics, you only do in the first zone.
yeah,
Well, the second zone has no purpose anymore, and I'm just like, could you at least let like the fates or the skirmishes there drop the same way they do in the first zone?
yeah, that would have been good to have like both of them as possibilities. But rip.
But I've also joked around that because we're doing Hildebrand and Manderville weapons, we could have a gate grind.
Oh my god.
I would
That'd be
actually
funny.
like that, or at least I'd like it for a while.
You need 1 million MGP.
Oh god,
I'm
I'm
mad
almost
about that
there.
because I have
Oh,
so
God.
much I need to
600,000.
buy.
I
Yeah.
haven't been to the Gold Saucer in a year.
Well, it sucks to be you then.
No, it's great to
I
be
go
me.
there to I go there to sell cards all the time. My inventory fills up
Yeah,
with cards, and I'm like, get out.
that and the mini
Actually, I know.
cactus.
I take that back. I haven't been there in a couple of months because all I go there to do is play mahjong.
Nice.
Nothing else.
Oh, so you're there for hours a day.
Like
You
Neela, I
liar.
also
That's
go
why he
just
doesn't
to
want to
drop
go back
cards.
because he's like, fuck mahjong.
I went there for the dance
Just
steps
kidding.
last week. And for those who don't know this, which should be a really small group, the fashion report is the quickest way to get MGP, no questions asked. It's
Yep.
takes you 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and you do it once a week, and you get 80K. Get your MGP.
And Kayako Star on Twitter has it
Mhm.
every time for you.
Absolutely.
It's really
Last week it was
great,
like a
yeah.
bronze barbet and a skirt, I think. Maybe it was shoes. You know.
And even if you don't do the fashion report, it's still like tens of thousands of MGP just for doing it.
Yeah, you can just go there and what you're wearing.
Doing it and failing
stand there
gets
and
you
get it.
money. Yeah.
I do when I don't have the energy to put the outfit together. When I just don't have the time, I just talk to him, and you get some. It's free. It's better than zero, which is what I get if I make myself do the hard way.
Yeah.
It's free. It's free. It's free real estate.
Ah, yes, and the free Verminion, yes. I actually
Yeah,
enjoy
Verminion.
Verminion a little bit. It's cute, and I like put in fun minions that have terrible attacks, but I think they're cute, and that's all that matters.
You just pretend like you're at the LCS Worlds
Right?
League of Legends. Yeah. Well, Worlds are going on
Oh,
right
God.
now. I'm not watching them, but I used to watch them a lot. So now you just pretend like, oh, I'm at my own Worlds.
Yeah.
I know we talked a lot about Pandemonium and then we got sidetracked with relics, but was there anything else future coming that maybe we're talking about? I know that there's been some discussion in the Discord about jobs, and I've been trying to wrap my head around stuff because it's really hard to tell what they're going to do. They have that rule of one tank or healer every expansion, basically since they didn't in was it
Stormblood, I think?
Stormblood, and
Yeah.
it seemed like it was an issue for leveling.
So let's do this. How about come 7.0, looking back at the jobs, what's going to be added next? Let's say they are going to add 2 jobs. Now, we've already got our 2 for Endwalker, right? Or did we not get any for Endwalker? We didn't, did we?
What do you mean?
Of jobs?
Job.
We got Sage.
We got Sage and
Sage and Reaper, that's right.
Yeah.
and Reaper. Yep.
So who would be added next? Would it be a ranged? Would it be a
My
healer? Would it be a tank?
My personal take is in Heaven's Word we got tank, healer, DPS, and then we got 2 DPS. Then we got tank and a DPS.
Yeah, Dancer.
And then
Yeah, it was
healer and a
Dancer.
DPS. So I think I'm personally guessing we're come around to 2 more DPS, but I'm willing to be wrong.
I'm also hoping that
think
one of those
someone-
is scouting gear.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been
literally, I was gonna
making that
say,
argument too.
I'm thinking another ranged. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
just my guess.
I thought ranged physical using
Alex,
scouting gear.
that would be interesting. Yeah.
And then the
Could be-
other
I would-
one that could be out there is a caster.
I would
'Cause-
expect either a ranged or a caster at least. Yes.
yeah,
Still waiting on Beastmaster as a limited job.
I'm waiting for it as a regular job.
I'm still wondering if they're gonna scrap limited jobs or not.
It's just the Ash Ketchum job.
Not wrong.
Yeah,
There was a lot of rumbling about reworking Blue Mage to be an actual job, but then Yoshi at the 14-hour mentioned wanting to do more blue content, so that kind of got thrown out the window.
I wouldn't see them redoing it. I'm kind of sad. Like I could have seen them doing blue, where you do a quest and you get an ability, and this becomes your ability set, and you just do these quests and fight the animals and get the spells. The way they
Yeah,
did it is also fine, but I don't have as much interest in it.
Because I'm very partial to Blue Mage because that was my main in 11.
Nice.
And so when they were talking about Blue Mage and I was thinking about how to have it be a normal job, it was what you were talking about for the quests. You go out there and fight monsters and get it that way. But on top of that, you would have what I would call a role change stance. So literally changing between, and that changes what spells that you use, and allows you to queue on different roles.
Honestly, I think that ability to change role is probably the reason they went limited, because the other ways, the thing I mentioned would be a way to make it a normal job, but that makes it very tricky, and I get the impression they don't want to do that, which is okay. It's sort of a bummer, but it's okay.
What I think they should add, and this will be a big controversial thing, is add what would be a support category for classes, and just kind of fit Dancer into that. I mean, even though it is a ranged DPS at this point, there's a lot of buffs it can give the party. And I think we're in the market for a lot of classes that can supplement raid teams. Not because they do damage, but because they throw out buffs and give debuffs to the enemy. I would like to see that.
I would as well. It's
It
a
would be
core design
It
issue.
would be
I've
nice
had.
if they'd put... Yeah, go ahead.
I said Bard can kind of fit into that same category
Easily.
too.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if they had that as a category from the beginning. I'm actually not sure why they didn't go that route.
And I think it's just to preserve the triad that MMOs have always had, the tank, healer, DPS, and they don't want to kind of make it complicated. But I mean, having support is not complicated.
It's not complicated.
You have your DPS that does damage. You have your tank that takes the damage and keeps the attention of the monster. You have your healer that heals the party, and then you have your support, which supplements practically all 3.
And a fourth category, like support role with a different like color icon and everything, would add the potential for even more interesting mechanics in things like Savage, where the tanks and healers get targeted with one thing, and the DPS and support would get targeted with another, or it swaps. It just would make it more complicated, but it would also make it more interesting in the exact same moment.
It would. The thing is, though, I can see where the flaw is with that, because in raid teams, they would start worrying about a comp, a certain.
I mean,
comp.
they're
already doing that, but it would be different, though.
It would be different. I agree.
I mean, we're in a weird spot right now, even where people are only bringing ranged fizz because of the stat bonus that you get for having a ranged fizz in your party.
Yep.
Not for the actual jobs.
like it would be it would be different, but it would be no different because there are already people cherry picking what roles to bring in for what raid.
Yep.
So
And
if
people are
you
gonna
bring
do that,
in
but the number of people doing it and how prevalent it is versus like, hey, stop doing that, or everyone's like, no, you have to do this, would be the. It's a matter of how much, I think, and they don't want too much of it.
because
That's my guess.
because with 8 people you have your 2 tanks, your 2 healers, and 4 DPS. So I'm sure parties will be like, okay, well, we need and two healers, 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 support. And I'm sure other parties are going to be like, well, we have awesome DPS. Why not just bring 1 support? Which is good because if you have a good support, you can support all 7 other people. And I think it just makes for more interesting combinations when you have 4 different support, 4 different role types. But I can also see why they don't want that because it adds more complexity.
Well, and it used to be a little
Yep.
bit different too uh, when there wasn't as much disparity between melee versus the other two, ranged and magical and caster. Because you could see bringing like 2 casters, a ranged and a melee, but now there's just no reason not to bring 2 melee with hitboxes the
It's
size
true.
they are and the amount of damage that melees are doing.
And here's the other thing that I think that it wouldn't be detrimental. Instead, I think would be better in having a different roles type. They don't have to worry so much about potencies. They don't have to worry about people complaining, oh, this class needs a nerf, this class is too strong. It's this class now can supplement this, even though it has a low potency here. We added a new support class. Here's another support class that can help Ninja be better. Here's a support class that can help Dark Knight be better. They're adding different classes for different people who like playing different types of things, so that people who don't like tanking, or let's say they still have that tank anxiety thing, they want to try ranged DPS, they don't like it, it's not their thing, they can try support. Oh, it's their thing.
Yeah, there's a good thing to be said about the support as a concept. It's for people who don't really like worship rotations, who aren't necessarily mechanically excellent, and I do mean excellent, like high tier. Um, and they just want to support the party and get people through. Buffing, debuffing, mesmerizing, sleep, stun, all this kind of stuff. It's a different game though, and it feels to me like they've just designed this game around the 4-person party, and unless they would change it to 5 to make room for a support. I just don't see it happening, but I would love it. I mean, Bard should be distinct from Ranger, and it isn't. And that's just one example among any you can invent that, there's a valid position where support is important, and this just isn't that game.
Pretty much, yeah. They've built so much around the 4-person party, the 8-person party, that I don't see them changing that. So it's just like, it is what it is at this point. But it's
I think at
interesting to
most
think
what they
about
do,
still.
I was going to say,
Go
I
ahead.
think at most what they do is they start adding supports into the distinct roles.
That's right. They could
So
add
you have
jobs
one
that
job
just
that's
do
like,
more of that.
yeah. And so that's how they make up for their lack of potency.
Yeah.
But still because I mean, to an extent, that's what Red Mage always was.
Yeah.
Is there was lower potency, but it allowed you the ability to have more reses to get through stuff.
Yeah, it's the prog class, and it's really useful. I mean, you see how dominant Red Mage is in adventuring forays, right? In Eureka and Bazia, in Deep Dungeon even.
I was gonna say it's my favorite for deep dungeons.
It's just so useful in its niche, and then if you take it into a raid, you're getting less damage, but you're getting 7 raises in under a minute, and that's what it's there for.
That many?
Yeah.
The MP pool becomes a real big issue.
Yeah, no, it is. You're dropping Shroud. No, it's not called Shroud anymore. What's it called? I'm old.
Yeah. I know.
Mana button, pink.
Mana button. I think it's lucid dreaming.
Yes, yeah, lucid dreaming. I was gonna say Shroud of Saints, which is very A Realm Reborn.
That's what it used to be on White Mage, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yep, I remember.
On that subject, I want refresh back. Thank you.
I miss
Same.
having cleric stance in Palace of the Dead as a scholar and getting locked into the the damage one on a floor where you can't use abilities. I do not actually miss that. That's a joke. That sucked.
I remember in A Realm Reborn when I was playing Bard that there would be good bards and bad bards, and I don't mean damage. I mean people who refuse to take the role seriously, and they would say, "No, I'm not using my MP regen stance because it decreases
I miss
my
old Mage's
damage."
Ballad.
Uh-huh.
Mage's
Get out of my
Ballads, there's
party.
so many old raids from just people running low on MP from rezzing people.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I was a good bard. And you know what? My muscle memory is still such that I miss Iron Jaws with high frequency because I'm used to hitting the dots independently, just refreshing them manually. I could do that all day long, but hitting one button should be easier. My brain does not compute. I lose track of the timer.
Yep.
God, sometimes I wonder what the raiding scene would have been like if A3S never happened.
Oh God, Pepsi Man.
Would be different.
Oh, yeah, the raid tier that destroyed servers.
I mean,
Ruined
that's why I
friendships.
took a 2-year break from the game.
It's true. People
God.
literally, my raid leader back during that tier, I thought we were all on good terms and there were no fights. He was just done. The dude transferred servers without telling anyone he was quitting. He just
Nice.
left.
Whoa.
He was fun. I enjoyed that person. But yeah, that did happen. I mean, it was just, that's how
Threw
frustrating that tier
everyone
was.
into the crucible.
Yeah, just, we're done. This is bonkers. Play meta, get out. Go to, what was it? Was it Balmung? What server was the raid server back then?
Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh,
or
that's it.
Behemoth, whichever one of those two.
Although I was on Sarktanis back then, and it had a fairly active raid
Excalibur,
scene, too.
kind of. We had a lot.
Yeah.
of big
Excalibur was
ones.
like the primal raid server.
It was, but yeah. And now and I'm still on Excalibur, even though I transferred from Diabolos. Now we're just empty.
Well,
There's
people can
nothing
go
here.
anywhere. People can go anywhere to raid now.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it impact Duty Finder yet, or I mean Raid Finder yet, though.
Yeah, I mean, Raid Finder is very fortunately cross-server, so it really doesn't affect...
Well, I meant from people jumping to different data centers.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen that yet. Although, we have that new thing coming, don't we?
The new server?
Yeah. Isn't
Or
there a
new
new data center?
Yeah.
New data center. Dynamis.
Where are my Seraph people at?
Which everyone on Balmung should absolutely go to Dynamis. That would be great, especially if you have a house.
I'll tell my tank who has a house on Balmung.
Yes,
I
you
still
should.
want
You should.
Crystarium housing win.
Leaving because we're raiding together. Sorry. But yes, no, it was fun. It was just funny because we were talking about last night. He was like, "Yeah, I got really lucky."
Oh, yeah. Apologies for the chat. Alex was asking for the what the story was about the raid tier. Yeah, it was just a raid tier that was so extremely difficult that it was almost impossible for the general party to clear. It could just be nostalgia, but I think that mess was way bigger than this more recent mess where people were getting very angry about not being able to clear the first 2 weeks. This was not like the first 2 weeks. This was ongoing
this one
for
wasn't
weeks
as
and
bad.
months, and it
I mean,
just
the world
never stopped.
first, I think, happened. I think it was just after the weekly reset for that first tier of Alexander. Like it was the longest I think that they've gone
Yeah,
for
after
world first.
Titania. After Titania, yeah. Or
Twin Tanya.
Twin Tanya, thank you.
Twin Tanya was almost a month.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But that's just
God.
because in both ARR and Heavensward,
Mysteries.
Square was really trying to figure out how to make raids, and they realized that they didn't do it right with ARR, and they tried the new format that we currently have with Alexander, but it was just way overtuned, and so they
The format was good, but
yeah, the format was good, but the numbers were wrong. So since then, they've kind of figured it out, and then afterwards, they kind of went too far in the other direction, where they made the later tiers too easy. And then in Stormblood, I think they finally found a balance.
that's kind of how it felt to me. I was lucky to start reading at the right time then in
Then they
Stormblood.
gutted
Oh,
Dark
absolutely you
Knight.
were. I mean, and part of this is a little bit of charity on our part, right? Like, as players and as a community, like they've had such a good record for so long. They're allowed to make a slight error every once in a while.
Oh, absolutely.
Chill out,
The
guys.
fact of the matter is they work hard, they do a good job, and accidents happen because everyone's human, and they don't like wash over it. They don't like sneakily fix it in a patch. They stand up and say, "Hey, this happened. This is what's going on. This is how we're addressing it." And like you can't ask for more. People are gonna make mistakes. It happens. And it's not that big a mistake. It's, you know.
Well, and
It's
it,
Dark
might
Knight
it
got
might
the
end up being
astrologian treatment.
it might end up being a huge boon too, because I think it really got even the devs kind of looking more at job balance after it.
Yeah, which isn't a bad thing. I know my static has a paladin and he's not been very happy recently. The guy's a fantastic paladin, but you know, the average paladin's getting locked out of duty finder stuff at the start. It's been very frustrating because like anyone who pays attention is going to be like, no, this guy's fine, but like, yeah.
I have a deep-seated hatred and scorn for what they did with Dark Knight because it used to be the class I played. I still play
That's
Ninja
how I feel
as my
about
primary, but
that's how I
after
feel about
Stormblood,
Astro.
yeah, they got the Astro treatment.
It
Astro
was Dark
turned
Arts,
good,
right?
and
Just
then
getting rid of
I
that.
feel like they then took what they learned with Astro, or what went bad with Astro, and then they just dumped it on Dark Knight.
Weird. I don't know. I've always liked Dark Knight. I kind of like. I still like it to this day. So I see some of that old hate from it, and I just don't understand where it comes from.
See,
It
the
just played
thing with
differently, completely.
the thing with the Dark Knight is like I enjoyed having busy buttons. And by that I mean keeping my hands busy. Stormblood, you had rotation. You had rotation inside of rotation. Dark Arts made it that way. It was fun. It was very interesting to play. And along comes Shadowbringers. Shadowbringers, you have OGCDs. You have their so-called damage, even though Paladin was out damaging Dark Knight at the time. Haha. But it simplified everything. Everything was so like you press one button now instead of three. You press two buttons now instead of a full combo rotation.
It is what people asked for, but
That was
not
my issue
everybody
with
asked for
Astro.
it.
So like everything that you spend 1 to 60, 70 levels learning now becomes, oh well, I don't need to learn this. I can just And I get that they added jump potions, but you don't need to dumb down the class along with the jump potions.
Mm-hmm. It's a hard balance to strike. What's too complicated? What's too simple? No one is ever going to be happy with everything. You know, like I know a lot of people like the change to Astro, found it simple. The cards were too confusing or something. And I guess maybe part of it is that they provide these incentives for leveling everything, but that means that people want things to be simpler. And I'd rather have flavor and not as perfect like level playing field because I enjoy that flavor, but not everyone feels that way.
See, and I play Ninja as my main now because I mean I've always been a fan of melee classes and the Ninja itself. And
It definitely
I've
keeps your hands
resigned
busy.
myself to the fact that Mudras are not OGCD as they were before. I loved when they were OGCD before because again, it felt like Dark Knight was. It's you do combos inside of combos, you press buttons inside of buttons.
Ninja still feels really good.
It
I think what
does,
Ayumi
but
is saying is he likes pushing buttons.
Yeah,
yes.
you're a high APM player. Actions per minute.
Actions per minute, yeah. Well, it's because I was an FGC player for a long time. So combos and button rotations, those are deeply ingrained to me. I used to be a Smash Brothers player.
Nice.
All
Yeah,
in all, I think
I'm
they
a little
could-
bit on the slower end just because of growing up controller RPG player more than anything.
I'm
Like I've
slow
done some
actions
FPS,
as well.
but even that isn't very fast
I
when I
like
do.
slower GCDs. I figure if I'm doing the same damage, why work harder? And it's the truth. If you go to the theory crafting sites, often the high global cooldown and the low global cooldown are like within 5% or 10% of each other. But yeah, it's kind of missing from the game right now, except what Gunbreaker, and I guess Ninja still has some of that. Are there any other fast playing jobs right now that I'm just not aware of?
Machinist.
Machinist, but that's the heat
Used to be
blast
Summoner.
spam, which isn't interesting. It's just have good ping. It is fun. I love seeing my arm like fling around.
And yet you can't decide whether you want to play Bard or Machinist every time I group.
It's tough, yeah.
You have
It's
to
tough.
ask me. You can't decide for yourself.
What do I want to play? What do I want to play,
Wow,
everybody?
called out.
It's true.
It's true.
The savage shade.
You know, Zental, you have a point. Machinist is greater than Bard because of drill. However, that is dated information because now that we have Radiant Finale back, which is better for Requiem, it's a tough call.
I mean, Machinist is my favorite ranged physical, but I'm sad it's in such a bad spot right now.
Did you
Yeah,
see
I-
Happy's video a couple weeks ago about Machinist?
I did. I had my own thoughts on how they could not necessarily rework it, but make it a little bit easier. And mine was do like they do in the PvP and put the drill, air anchor, chainsaw on a rotation with stacks.
I agree. That'd be awesome. I really tuned in when he said add dismantle back and add the Volnup back because I agree. It's just like with Bard and Shadowbringers. It lost Faux Requiem, and for most of the expansion, it didn't have any stat buffs when you were inside of your songs at all. Now they exist. They're quite low, but it's at least something. But it wasn't gameplay, right? It was math behind the scenes, so you didn't feel it. But when they added Radiant Finale back, into the game at all, which is, it's like their new version of Faux Requiem, it made it feel like gameplay. So even though you use it on cooldown, you spin around, you got your pulsating music. What's that? It's a clef, single clef. I don't know. I'm not a music guy.
Yeah, musical stuff.
But yeah, it's got an animation that lets you feel that you're playing a song, and that's cool. Now, Machinist got some new skills, but it's missing parts of its original core gameplay, which was I have a turret, I create a Volnup,
Yeah, the turret.
and I can do a strength
That was the one
down.
that stuck out from Happy's video to me, was bringing the turret back into play.
I've wanted the turret back for so long.
That was
Whenever I
fun.
play low content, I see it flying around with its little, clockwork helicopter, and I just love it. And it's not there. I would love all of the little gadgets. I don't want it to turn into the queen. I would like to have both bishop and rook, and then queen be the 90-second cooldown. That's fine with me. I just wanted them to still be present in the gameplay.
And then what Sly wants is to put you in a mech to end it out.
Yeah, cheap.
Mechs are cool.
It's a
Make
bit
this
much for me.
a Gundam game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
It's a bit much for me.
yes. I like how this was supposed to be a lore dive, but we went into just kind of examining classes.
We play games.
I mean,
We do.
It's all important.
Yeah. It's tangentially related to lore. What's the lore of us
Right,
not
we
having
got
a
here
rook
talking-
anymore?
Well, when we got here talking about new jobs that they could add.
It's true.
Right. I forgot how we got here.
We did, and it went from that into like support, into like what they could add, into like what we like and such. But let's go back to that main topic then. What could they add? What would they add in 7.0?
I still
don't-
think that there's a good possibility for and it's something you said, one of you said earlier, which was Ranger. Don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to call it Ranger. You could call it Hunter.
Yeah.
Which is, I think also has some Final Fantasy games that have called it that. But I've always wanted a crossbow user, so like there's the part of me that just wants them to use a crossbow. And I thought if we're going to Mirror Citia, it would make sense to have some Safari hunters out there.
Mm-hmm.
Whispers into the mic, Geomancer and Corsair.
Jeez.
I'm gonna go back to chemist.
course,
Sorry.
I was so expecting the healer for this this expansion to be Apothecary.
Instead of Apothecary, it's Laser Healer, and they just called it Sage.
Speaking of going back to 11, I always thought Chemist would have been great for that game. That's kind of the counter to Ninja, where you have to craft your heals.
If you really want to make
craft
people
their
mad,
spells.
add Arithmetician. Sorry,
got
do
limited
math
job
to do
all
your
over it,
spells.
unfortunately.
Watch
It's
Do-
easy. I like math.
It's going to come out and it's
Do
actually
prime
gonna be-
numbers, do long division, do addition and subtraction to do your
I don't
spells.
have to do long division. I can do short division.
No. You gotta do long division because you have a long ass rotation.
I ain't writing it out.
You
I'm
have
just dividing
to.
it in my head. No, I refuse.
It works like the
Can't make me-
dancers. It works like the dancers. Dancers dances. You have to press them in a certain order, and you have to do. They have little symbols where like addition and subtraction and numbers, and you have to press them in a certain order and get it right, or your spell will freeze.
I'm actually sad. I used to play Pathfinder with a group, and then we transitioned just to D&D because Pathfinder has a lot of moving parts. It's a lot like 3.5 for anyone who's familiar.
Mhm.
And right before we switched over, I found this class that lets you do like I think it's called Sacred Geometry. I remember looking into it a bunch. And basically you roll dice, you get numbers, and then you add and subtract them to get cool effects. And I was like, I would be good at this. I would enjoy this. And then I didn't get a chance to make a character.
That would be cool to add on Corsair too, because I mean it's a pirate type class, right? So you could have you could have a type of luck based ability that rolls dice like that.
They got rid of the nice luck based ability we had with Astro cards. Boo. But yeah,
And best part is Corsair already has a symbol in game and a place in game.
I was gonna say consider poster child for Corsair game. Oh gosh, what's his name? The guy who's always hanging around on Monolame, Sickard.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
At the
They're
Marauders
new best
Guild.
buds.
At the Marauders Guild, if you look above the entrance, there is a pair of dual crossed pistols, which was the Corsair's
Musketeers.
symbol. And down in the basement, they are training.
Yep, got to learn how to shoot
That would
somewhere.
be cool.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this last week or 2 weeks ago, but there's a lot of jobs that are actually in the game. They're just not playable. We've got Beastmaster. It does exist. We've got Puppet Master. It does exist. We've got...
Geomancer.
We do have Geo. We also have this gun class that What the heck? My brain is not computing.
Musketeer?
Thank you. It's in the game. It's just not for us. And that could change at any point at the whims of the developers. Absolutely. Although all the Beastmasters in Bosnia, oh my goodness, this gets me thinking about how
There's so many.
there are these regular people that are not warriors of light that it's taking like 35 of us to 1v1, 35v1, and I'm just thinking about how strong that entire legion is in gameplay, and like we're the ones saving the universe, but these people like could easily take down any one of us solo.
Let's be real. The hunt for Red Shocktober fate is the one that would kill the Warrior of Light.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking of them bringing Lion back as the Beastmaster trainer now. Him and that little Lalafell lady.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. See, this is what I'm saying. We could still go to Landis. We could talk to some people. We could get stuff. This could be so cool. Oh. But no, we're saving shards now, which I'm all for. It's like
There's so
we
many
made this
things
game
to
be
do.
6 different games, and they just have to pick. They have to pick a thread and follow it because it's too much. At least that's how I
Someone
take it.
remind me. Did I know? Oh, never mind. I'm not thinking of new classes. I'm thinking of the poster child. Never mind.
It's fine.
Because I recall people being like, from Dark Knight to Paladin. It's perfect for Final Fantasy IV, because Cecil starts as a Dark Knight and becomes a Paladin. And
Yep.
I think they said at some point, oh, we didn't specifically plan that. So now I'm wondering what the poster child will be for the next one.
Yeah, the who's Canon Warrior of Light for 7.0?
Almost certainly
Be a
Amelia.
white
It usually
mage.
is.
It's
You
not
think
gonna be
I
a
so?
would
white
love
mage.
to get a caster finally.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Never gonna get that black mage one.
Hey, you got the cover of ARR. What do you get?
They were kind of covered for ARR, even though
But
they weren't the canon for
yeah.
ARR.
They're like, this looks cool.
Every time I load up Steam, I see cool black mage on there in the ARR gear.
Neil Bear rocking it out.
So, moving off topic of the classes, let's go into characters that we may see or may not see. So we have our Scions, our Scion team, and we know that there's an event coming up thanks to the Rising event that will drastically change the way that the story is going. Yoshi P mentioned that it's not going to be in 6.3, it'll be in 6.5. Who do you think will stick around and who do you think will possibly say their farewells to us?
I mean, I released my theory crafting video for the patches this week, and I could see us losing Zero as Zero becoming some sort of all powerful entity absorbing other void scent.
Yeah, I saw this. You want to touch on it?
Yeah, I mean the
I'll link it in
quick
the
and
chat.
dirty of it, so that I don't take up too much time, is that effectively the four fiends probably took some ether, or we know that they took ether, but they might have also taken some memories and portions of kind of uh, Vitra's soul, and so we got to reconstitute that. And the idea is Zero taking the four fiends into herself, in order for us to kill her, and Vitra into herself, so that we can kill her and let them all kind of reconstitute themselves on their own. Um, and something going wrong in that process where kind of the anger and malice of both Vitra and the four fiends kind of take over Zero's body, the way that kind of Zeromus was the like malice that was in Zemus in Final Fantasy IV, and becomes some sort of evil entity that maybe escapes um, back through the gate and back into the source. And kind of being our lead antagonist force that leads us into the expansion.
Interesting.
I linked the video in chat for anybody watching. I found this to be a really interesting video. I mean, when we see a name like Zero, it's like, my first thoughts were, it's an anime trope, first of all, and it's like they pulled a name out of a hat because you've seen it before. You've seen it before. It's almost like I don't know if it's like a cool word they have in their back pocket, but you see it all across anime content, and I almost thought nothing of it except for a pocket pull, but this is the FF4 referential expansion, and we do have the four fiends, and it wouldn't be strange at all for this or some version of this to be part of this patch cycle.
And I think it's not necessarily. It shouldn't be lost on us all the lore that they throw at you about a void scent absorbing others and taking on a part of them, merging with your mind to an extent.
Yeah, we didn't have to hear
And it's
about this at all, did we? They chose to give us this wonderful morsel about when you're a void scent, you are actually merging. You're the dominant persona, but those things are still within you.
and then on top of that what really pulled that theory together for me was this idea of, oh, all this stuff can reconstitute itself once the void scent's defeated. So it would make sense that Zero go, hey, if we can, I know a way we can do this.
Yeah, give me lots of apple juice, and I'll make you some insert metaphor. I don't know, brain.
That'll be kind of a hard lift for her, though, because she was very much adamant about not wanting to merge with anyone for any reason.
Yeah, that was the only real hiccup for me, but it could be that the right reason has to come along for her to do it. And her looking at the situation finally and learning friendship of going, no, I have to do this for them. Nobody else can.
You know, this is making me think, and I'm seeing this in chat. It kind of reminded me. Warrior of Light imperfectly absorbed Ardbert in Shadowbringers, and we haven't heard his voice because it wasn't plot relevant. But he clearly speaks the Seto at the end of that patch.
Yeah, 5.3.
Like it's not. It's like close your eyes and then you let your internal Ardbert speak, and then it's back to normal. But so did we do a void scent thing over there? I mean, this is not like Graha
I
Exarch.
think
This
the
is different.
difference is that the Voidsent are eating just whoever they happen upon, whereas Ardbert and Wool have a link. They have a prior existence that they're linked by.
I do think it's
So
operating under similar principles, yeah.
yeah, it's similar
But
but
yeah,
different.
it is different to agree.
And Zinthal raises this when we're during doing the walk in Endwalker, those lines from Ardbert, I don't remember, at least one of them I don't remember being something he actually said during Shadowbringer. I think it might have been a unique line.
I'd need to review the cutscene again. Does anybody else remember what was
Same.
said?
I'm pretty sure they were all lines that were said before.
They were definitely all canon voiced lines from the game, but I don't know when that line was because I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, it's that if you need a push, I'll be right behind you.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Yeah, that was
that's mid Shadowbringers.
that's mid
Is it?
Shadowbringers, yeah.
When you're worried about light corruption.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for grabbing those then.
I'm not sure if this is a popular opinion because Endwalker is a very good expansion, but I kind of miss Shadowbringers. What is that?
Oh, I definitely do.
I really miss Shadowbringers. It was just really tight. It was really internally cohesive. It had like you would have a theme, and then the same theme would be echoed in a sort of a meta narrative way, and then it would also be echoed in like the side quests and stuff.
Everything about Shadowbringers was great except for the last 2 patches. It felt weird out of place with the last 2 patches, but Shadowbringers overall was the most cohesive.
I agree, except last 3.
Well, and Trolley was a little
6.3 was or 5.3 was a swing and a miss for me.
Ooh.
Really?
They took a swerve from 6.2 and they did a lot of weird stuff. It was I have opinions.
Okay.
I think you're talking about 5.3, right?
Yeah, I misspoke at first.
Yeah, no worries. If I remember that conversation back then, it basically centered around, and we I think we agreed a little bit on this, Neela, and it was like the fact that they made Elidibus, who seemed a very competent, very knowledgeable elder, Asian, who was no nonsense, wasn't really fucking around, and definitely had a plan, into someone who was suffering from very severe, chronic loss of memories and slow dementia. And that was such a left turn from his characterization prior. I was impacted. I did feel things, and I wasn't angry. But it was such a
I think
huge
most
turn.
people don't focus on Elidibus as much as I do, so that's why that patch fell really flat for me. People were like, "Oh, you got so much content." I'm like, it all negated stuff from the past. I didn't like that.
Yeah, that Elidibus definitely does not feel like the Elidibus that we knew for the expansions leading up. Yeah.
No. I feel like Elidibus filled more of an Emmett Selk mastermind role in prior expansions.
Oh, for
He
sure.
really did.
For sure. Where he was
He
kind
was
of
the 3D
directing
chess
everything.
guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's a little bit strange about them when we see him inside the Crystal Tower before we go to Elpis. He feels so much more coherent and planning when telling us about this plan to get to Elpis.
Memories restored.
Yeah.
He ended up having a lot of like the developers just tuned him to be in any given scene what they wanted him to be.
He got to be second fiddle to Emmett Selk, and it really shows.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate that in the in the cutscene leading up to the actual fight of Seed of Sacrifice, he he sets the narrative again right before the fight. And I thought that was a good touch. I liked that. I thought it was well done. The Waking Sands. I loved that.
And then there's 6-0, where I like, don't get me wrong, I liked Endwalker, but it took what we knew from Shadowbringers, Stormblood, Heaven's Ward, and ARR, a lot of things, and they just tossed it out the window.
Yeah. The whole blessing thing, not being able to hear Hydaelyn's voice in Heaven's Word, post Heaven's Word. Or no, that's post ARR into Heaven's Word. I got it switched.
And maybe
Yeah,
go
there's
from
a lot of-
wide-eyed to squinting.
I mean, I know that there's at least one content creator that I think just quit after the reveal about the Blessing of Light and Elpis.
Yep.
I don't know.
That was.
I still think it still works together. It's just you felt a little bit misled after what you had learned in Shadowbringers.
It does literally the opposite of what it did in Heaven's Word, so I do get that. Like, I didn't care for that reveal. I felt like it could have been done better.
Same. That reveal actually.
It was not the thing that made me almost quit. That was
I find that reveal to actually be incredibly problematic, just because they build the Blessing of Light up to be this huge thing, and it's just this simple ward. Like one line could have fixed it by saying, it's a traveler's ward, but it's more complex than anything I've ever done.
An extra
That would have
is all
been
Cobra
done.
needed.
Perfect.
Well, let's consider as well. Have you guys listened much to the Eden 8 lyrics? The the light shall usher in peace. All the lyrics and the music when we're fighting Reen.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
All the mechanics in that fight, stuff like bright hunger. It was set up in this interesting way, and then Walker did not deliver at all. It was apparently supposed to just be talking about the flood of light on the first, but that was never clear. And when she turns into like mini baby Hydaelyn, you make some assumptions that seem reasonable, and then they're like, we fooled you.
Thinking about like the conversation with the Watcher on the moon, he's like, "Yeah, Hydaelyn lied to you, but I mean, primals are weird. They're imperfect. They're weird. They're just imperfect because we made them that way."
Right.
Yeah, that was the one that I was like, I might actually quit because that was such bullshit.
I don't think I ever
from
came
a
close
certain
to
point
quitting.
of view.
Okay, Obi-Wan.
God damn it.
I also didn't like that the English localization really kind of dropped the ball on the whole Zodiac thing and made it sound like he didn't temper them when he did, and they just translated it poorly.
Yeah, I go with Emmett on that one. He said that they got tempered. I believe him on that.
Well, no, in every other localization, it is very clear that they were tempered. In Japanese, I think the line is something like, if we were to create an entity on the scale of Zodiac, you would be drawn in, but at this level, it's fine, or whatever the exact phrasing is. It's just the teeny tiny tug thing is just, they're trying to add flavor, and what they did is just made it actually confusing. Like people look at that and they believe that they didn't get tempered, and that's just not true. It's just the localization, that note missed a bit.
There's a lot of that,
what I
right?
was talking about before we actually started on the podcast. We actually went live. Is that we have all these different checks and balances going through in the lore check, that a lot of this minor stuff ends up becoming major stuff when you slip up. Yoshi P mentioned that, or rather the lore team actually in the 14-hour broadcast mentioned that if they basically go out to the team and say, hey, does anyone want to do this part in the story? And if someone raises their hand to say yes, then they get to write the story. Well, that's all good and everything to have different points of view, but if they're not working on the story at the time, it makes conflicting points of view.
In short, this is not really anybody writing the book. It's a team, and so things are going to slip through the cracks over time.
Yes.
Even
though they have
grows.
like 15 different steps on going through and checking the lore, it's not staying on the same path. They're wibbly wobbling out of it. It's not walking one line.
It's strange that it's always English. That's the problem too, and that's with different localization leads, because this was an issue after the Midgard Summer scene in 2.5 back in the day.
Yeah.
All the other languages had a much very different context for what he did than what the English got.
And
I
I
can't
think
remember
it's
it exactly.
and I think it's because they changed up their localization team recently for English.
Oh, really?
Remember they
I didn't remember that.
lost they lost
Well, Koji
Yeah, they
Koji
lost
went
Oh, yeah, yeah.
moved up.
Okay, I had remembered that. That's right.
and I think there was a few other members of their localization team, and over to 16, and then they gained Kate, and this was at the time of Shadowbringers, not Endwalker.
I mean, I was saying that this goes all the way back to Koji too. That
Mhm.
English has always been a problem. It's the problem child of all the localizations.
It's tricky because the English audience is looking for different stuff than, from what I understand, than like the Japanese audience. The Japanese story, it tends to be very matter of factual, very this, that, whereas they really play up entertainment and also leading in stuff that leaves us guessing in a way, because we tend to want the theory crafting, the guessing. We want that a little more than other audiences.
We also want niches to be able to make our own stuff in.
That's also true, actually.
I also think the characterization of the characters matters. Meaning, like, I get that the primals thing was wrong, but I think they were trying to play into this is a specific Loporrit who has a bizarre sense of humor, and this is what they would sound like. Doesn't mean they chose the right
That's
words,
fair.
but like the teeny tiny toy boat thing, like this whole the thing that almost took people out of the plot. There's some people who do not like at all on this team the Loporrits coming right after killing Zodiark.
Yeah,
So,
I'm one of those.
Yep.
I'm like, that's such a
That
tone.
was
The tonal
unpleasant.
shift is just, it's too much all
It
at
was
once.
jarring.
It's like you go
It's
from like killing one of the elder primals to now we're having fun with rabbits on the moon.
it's
There's nothing
tough because
fun about it.
there had to be something that broke right there, because you're going from that to Vanaspati.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
there's got to be some levity in there somehow. And they were like, well, they got to learn about the moon anyways.
I mean, I appreciate that too, but it's like it maybe also dragged a bit too long, I thought.
Teeny
Because I
tiny
wasn't
bit
enjoying
too
it,
long.
it did feel long.
Yeah.
I do think that it did help with the pacing, even though it was kind of tonal whiplash.
I just really
We
enjoyed
needed
the
something
village theme.
between, dour, death, and destruction.
Yeah.
Don't all reply at once.
No.
That's not the part of Endwalker that dragged anyways.
Yeah, no, it's not.
That's very much.
I was waiting for Twine 2.0, and I definitely got it.
See, I was still on the path with it, all the way up until we got to the Crystal Tower and we mentioned time travel. And I can already hear Cobb smiling.
I'm only smiling because you hate it so much, but it was extremely problematic.
It was, and as soon as they mentioned, okay, well, we're gonna go back in time using the Crystal Tower as a battery, I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah, it was just the
I was first of all, I had
as
issues
problematic as it was, it's still something that in the moment I got super excited about.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like for me, it was less about Elidibus. It was more about, oh my god, I'm gonna get to see the ancient world. Holy shit!
Okay, here comes rant number 2. Are you ready?
All right,
Let's
go
go.
ahead.
So here I am, getting told that I get to go back to the past and meet my possible ancient self. But not only that, but the ancients. Stop it! Don't clip this.
Flip it.
So that I get to meet Emetzelk and Hythlodaeus and all the other ancients as they were. Cool, right? In the moment. Thinking in hindsight, oh, this might be bad because all the other instances that I've had with time travel, or that I've seen with time travel in the movies and other forms of media, has been bad. Such as what we did immediately when we got to Elpis. Anyways, we fought a butterfly. What do butterflies do?
They split
The butterfly
timelines.
effect.
Yep.
So we end up going there. We end up having a jolly good time with Hemetselk, Hythlodaeus, and
Hermes.
and we end up meeting the harbinger of destruction from the future, who's this tiny little Twitter bird.
I was really hoping that it wasn't going to be her. It was her discovering some entity out in the void of space.
Yes.
Yeah, that
I was
was
like,
my
this is how
initial
we're getting
read.
lost.
And instead, we drag her through Hot Topic, and then she becomes Emo Bird.
I was really hoping that it was going to be something corrupted her from without, and it was kind of like, okay, we got to deal with this effect of that, but there's still a bigger bad out there we don't even know anything about.
And then
That's
we
still
get
what
this
happened.
really awkward scene with Hemetselk and Hythlodaeus. Oh, this was all part of our plan all along. We totally fooled you, Hermes. Ha ha ha. We meant to fool you and send those two outside. And it felt
Don't
really weird. That felt
don't
like a really
start me
weird.
on chasing down this basically it's not literally a child, but in some ways very childlike and very much not a prey animal type of thing. You're just chasing her down, hunting her down. That was like uncomfortable for me.
Then we
Like,
get
it was
outside.
mean.
Then we get outside and we get through this whole, and I'm being very nice about this, metaphorical simulation of Vanna's recollection of the final days. Completely out of order, out of what we know. It's emotional, yes. Very emotional scene. I will admit that I had a tear in my eye watching it because we finally got our visual cue for answers. But everything from that period, from Elpis, beginning of Elpis to the end of Elpis and the following cutscene, I couldn't bring myself to like.
So I will say I loved it until I sat down and thought about it. If I hadn't
That
sat
was
down
the
and thought
thing.
about
Like,
how
I
I
it,
didn't
felt.
hate it outright if I didn't like. I was uncomfortable about doing time travel, 1, in the Final Fantasy XIV universe, 2, going through with it and fucking with the timeline again after fighting a time travel primal.
that is still active, by the way, and
Yes.
maintaining multiple timelines at the same time. And I will fight people on that.
Didn't think about that.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I will say during that, rolling back a little bit, as much as like I know some people have the problem with Medion being kind of this out of nowhere villain to end the expansion, I to an extent like that it was kind of her own internal stuff that caused the problem because it at least still relates back to the issue was still Hermes / Fandaniel, who was the problem the entire expansion, and so at least it wasn't too far away of just being, oh, it was a space monster the whole time.
Yeah, it was.
It
a
at least
space
was like,
monster of
no,
our
it
own
was
making.
the problem of an ancient.
Yeah, don't send a 5-day-old familiar with empathetic
No, you create an army of Borgs.
in the thousands to millions across the universe and imbue in them the ability to merge. Formulated
exactly
the
what you do.
question
You
wrong,
create a Star
Hermes.
Trek episode.
What happens if they don't find the
Yeah.
answers you seek?
Destroy them.
Yeah. Yeah. I still, when we talk about this, I keep thinking about how
Shit, that means we built ourselves an enterprise. Cobheran, what have we done?
You did this to yourself.
You violated
I mean,
the temporal prime directive.
Hemetselk's goodbye speech is pretty much Q's goodbye speech from Next Generation.
You know, I hadn't thought about that, but that's
Yeah,
actually a good point.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
it pretty much hates all the same beats.
Reminds me of the other thing we're getting on Tuesday. We're getting Omicrons.
Yes.
that's exciting.
All right.
I want a full
That
catalog
mount.
of all the civilizations visited, like the ones they didn't
Same.
mention.
Same.
That's gonna be super cool. I hope they do tie into that stuff.
Elpis is so easy. Alex the Swan Guy says, and I love this. Elpis is so easy and difficult to love at the same time. It's like candy that also holds my family hostage. It kind of is.
Yeah,
It's
that's a
good.
good
Yeah.
It's well
metaphor.
put.
That is a good metaphor.
Alex the Swan Guy 2022. It's
Oh,
like
poor
candy that also holds my family hostage.
It is. It's delicious, but then I look at it, I'm like, oh,
So what you're saying is it's basically like heroin.
oh god.
Oh no.
What are you injecting yourself with again, Ayumi?
Help us.
Caffeine.
That's classified.
That's classified. Nice.
It's
Well,
kill the bathwater.
I think we've had a really, really fun conversation, and I cannot believe it's 4 o'clock Eastern already, but we're about 30 minutes over time. Do we want to? Is there anything else to discuss? Should we close out and say bye? Till
Yes.
next time?
Where can people see Kaslo's videos?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I have a few links in the description for this video here, but Kaslo, please go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, I don't have a good fancy YouTube link, so the best thing to do is just search Kaslo25. I should pop up. I meant to check in an incognito tab to see if that actually pulls me up or not. But I know that's usually what I recommend to people. I also have my Twitter, which is Kaslo25, and my Twitch, which is Kaslo25. All labeled.
I'll
Should
go
be
ahead
pretty
and link
easy
them
to
in the
find me
chat
that way.
for you. Right.
And I think like I said, I mentioned earlier, I'm working on, or I need to start working on that Greek references and this tier of Pandemonium. And on top of that, I do still want to work on a video about what exactly did Midgard's armor do to us in 2.5. Now that we've got all this information and trying to harmonize it to come up with something that's a little bit canon.
Yeah, that's a monumental undertaking there.
It's okay. There's something that happened in the most recent patch that has made me want to delay again, which is discussion about the
Right.
staves that Golbez communicates with the Four Fiends with.
Which look like a replica of the thing he's on, which is like, what?
Mhm.
It's interesting.
I remember I had this crack
And also a
theory that
scout.
his throne was like an Asian symbol or part of the Asian
Oh,
glyph.
yeah.
Fraud or something.
Yeah, because weren't we trying to see if it was Zeromus?
Yes.
That's right.
I'm still.
It was
waiting
so
to see what
intricate,
happens.
and I was like, hold on.
What were you saying, Sarah?
I'm still waiting to see what happens with that until I abandon that theory. I'm very interested.
Sarah's like, yes, yes, yes.
Well, that's because I always want Asian shit.
Shake,
Golbez
shake.
was Pasherat all along.
Yeah.
Where is my blonde-haired mystery boy? Where is he?
It's behind the
I wanna
single
know.
eyeball.
It's been abandoned for years.
Yeah, I need Pastrot. Call me.
Left on red.
Tragic.
Oh man. All right. Well, I guess we'll close up shop here. Everyone, I've put the links to Kaslo's Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube in the chat. Please visit, subscribe. Lots of good content there. And I guess I'll just thank you, Kaslo, for coming on. And you're welcome anytime, as we say with all of our guests. And I'm really just here to make friends. I'm like the golden retriever, Ayumi says. So please, thank you, and you're welcome anytime.
Well, thank you. It feels like an honor being on here since I'm just a tiny little guy.
Ish.
No, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
thanks everyone for coming out to watch too.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Some good conversation today. Definitely check out Kaslo's videos. I know we've referenced them a couple of times on stream, and they're fantastic. So, Kaslo, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. We'll go to credits here. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for coming out. Definitely share, follow, like, subscribe, send it to your friends, all the stuff. And yeah,
Ring
we'll
that
be in
bell for
touch.
notifications.
Ring that bell.
God.
Have a lovely weekend, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.